across the globe, there are prisons that do more than hold criminals. They torment, isolate, and destroy. Inmates live in constant fear, where violence is the norm and hope is a distant memory. These are the 10 most dangerous prisons in the world, where survival is never guaranteed. 10th, San Pedro Prison. Bolivia, unlike any other, San Pedro in La Paz operates more like a wild city than a correctional facility. With no guards inside the walls, inmates have created their own society, complete with restaurants, markets, and families living within. Prisoners must buy their own cells, and those who can't afford better accommodations end up in the most violent corners. Corruption is rampant, and gangs control the drug trade, especially cocaine, inside the walls. Violence erupts frequently, and outsiders are often shocked by how freely the system operates with minimal state control. What should be a place of punishment has turned into an economic underworld where power and money rule. 9. Tadmor Prison, Syria. Tadmor, set in the scorching Syrian desert, is infamous for systematic torture and mass executions. In the early 1980s, over 1,000 prisoners were slaughtered in their cells in a single night, ordered by the government in retaliation for a failed assassination attempt. Survivors described horrific beatings, starvation, and psychological torment. Cells were tiny and overcrowded, with inmates packed together like animals. Tadmor's history is stained with the blood of political prisoners, many of whom were jailed without trial. Even after it was closed, it was later reopened by extremist groups, turning it once again into a place of cruelty and fear. 8. La Sabaneta Prison, Venezuela. La Sabaneta was built to hold 700 inmates, but ended up cramming in nearly 4,000. With only one guard for every 150 inmates, law enforcement was non-existent. Violence was left to run wild. Riots, gang warfare, and revenge killings happened daily. Inmates made makeshift weapons out of pipes and wires. In 1994, a riot killed 108 people in just a few hours. Disease was everywhere due to poor hygiene, and many died of treatable conditions. Although it was shut down in 2013, the memory of La Sabaneta lives on as a symbol of how prison systems can collapse under political and economic crises. 7. Diyarbakir Prison. Turkey-built during a time of political upheaval in Turkey, Diyarbakir became a chamber of horrors, especially for Kurdish political prisoners. Detainees faced relentless abuse, beatings, electrocution, sexual violence, and prolonged solitary confinement. Even children and women were not spared. Psychological torture was rampant. Inmates were forced to memorize Turkish national speeches or risk punishment. Many went on hunger strikes, and some committed suicide. Despite international outcry, little changed for decades. Diyarbakir became a brutal tool of political repression, feared even by those who had never seen its walls. 6th. Kresty Prison, Russia. In the heart of St. Petersburg stands Kresty, once Europe's largest prison. Designed in the 19th century to hold just over 1,000 inmates, it frequently held 10 times that number. Cells meant for 4 people held 20 or more. Inmates had to sleep in shifts, sharing beds and living amid roaches, rats, and human waste. Medical care was rare, mental health support non-existent. Many prisoners descended into madness. Guards often turned a blind eye to abuse, and corruption thrived. Though replaced by a newer facility, Kresty remains a dark icon of Russia's harsh and overcrowded penal system. 5. Rikers Island, USA. Just minutes from New York City, Rikers is infamous for being chaotic and violent. The prison has seen a constant stream of lawsuits over excessive force, neglect, and abuse. Many inmates here haven't even been convicted. They await trial for months, sometimes years. Mental health care is poor, with many mentally ill inmates locked in solitary. Guards have been filmed beating inmates, and deaths in custody have sparked national outrage. The case of Khalif Browder, who spent 3 years in Rikers without trial and later took his life, highlighted the prison's deep systemic flaws. Calls for its closure grow louder every year. 4. Black Dolphin Prison. Russia. Black Dolphin houses Russia's most dangerous criminals, terrorists, serial killers, and cannibals. Located near the Kazakhstan border, it's designed to crush the spirit. Inmates are blindfolded during transfers, handcuffed at all times, and kept under constant surveillance. Their cells have 3 sets of steel doors. Prisoners are not allowed to sit or lie down during the day and are forced to stand for 16 hours. Any attempt at communication without permission is punished. There's no physical contact, no freedom, and no hope. For most here, this is a life sentence without mercy. 3. ADX Florence. USA, known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, ADX Florence is the most secure prison in America. It's home to the worst of the worst, the Unabomber, 9/11 conspirators, and drug lords. Each prisoner lives in a soundproof concrete cell for 23 hours a day, without windows or human contact. Food is delivered through slots. Exercise is allowed once a day in a concrete pit, alone. The psychological impact is devastating. Some inmates have attempted suicide multiple times. Critics argue that ADX Florence violates human rights by pushing inmates into mental collapse, not through violence, but through unending isolation. 2. Carandiru Penitentiary, Brazil, closed in 2002. Carandiru was one of the most notorious prisons in Latin America. Overcrowded and lawless, it was home to more than 8,000 inmates. Disease was rampant. Nearly 1 in 5 prisoners had HIV due to shared needles and sexual violence. In 1992, a prisoner riot escalated into a massacre. Military police stormed the facility and executed 111 inmates, many of whom were unarmed. The event shocked the world and led to calls for prison reform in Brazil. Though the prison was demolished, the massacre still stands as a grim reminder of what can happen when brutality replaces justice. 1. Bang Kwang Central Prison, Thailand, nicknamed the Bangkok Hilton. Bang Kwang is one of the toughest prisons in the world. Most inmates are there for drug crimes, and many are on death row. New arrivals are forced to wear iron shackles for the first 3 months. Some wear them for years. The cells are packed, and there is no air conditioning in the sweltering heat. Prisoners sleep on concrete floors. Executions can happen with as little as 2 hours' notice, and those sentenced to die live in constant anxiety. In Bang Kwang, inmates don't just wait for justice. They count the hours until their final breath. Outro. From Syria's deserts to the cold cells of Russia, these prisons are not just buildings, they are machines of despair. For many who enter, there is no escape, no future, and no hope. Behind these walls, justice often becomes cruelty, and punishment becomes a lifelong nightmare. Which of these prisons shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more real-life stories from the darkest corners of the world.